Hello and welcome back to the Simon Ledbetter podcast. I'm your guest today, Chris Webb. I am, of course, only joking, but today's guest has been on the podcast so many times, he pretty much is running the joint, and I am just his lackey at best at this point. So, welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Simon Ledbetter.
You win the award for the best intro. Thank you very much, Chris. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for coming on my podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, as everyone says. So we are here today to talk about the voice of the agent, which I know is a massive undertaking. I'll phrase this quite bluntly. Why should agents care about the voice of the agent?
So, a bit of history, very short history. It's 3 years old. So, I used to do this in financial services, and a lot of people have very strong opinions. And I'm a big, like others in the industry, like you, like Christopher Watkin, like Simon Gates, big fans of data. I like data. I like numbers and facts rather than opinion. So I did the research in financial services. No one was really doing this kind of comprehensive research of the industry. It's quite narrow or single question stuff. So I kind of did this research as part of a project to kind of really understand the market for myself, for selfish reasons. We thought, you know what? Let's publish it for the market. And it was 44 pages. It was essentially a Word PDF. People really responded well to it. So we thought, you know what? We'll double up. So we got 553 responses to that first bit of research. So we made it into a proper survey, a proper report, got 841. And they had some great feedback saying, wow, such a long survey, so much good stuff in there, but it takes an hour to do it. So a guy we met through Rightmove said, well, why don't you break it into four parts? That meant we got over 1,000 responses this time. And kind of the why people should fill it in is, there's loads of brilliant people out there with lots of really good insight. Why don't you learn from the best? Why don't you get this survey and see the difference between the growth agents and the non-growing agents? So that when you have an opinion, you can just look into the voice of the agent and go, see, I think this, but actually what the market's telling me is this. And we have so much data about property, but not necessarily what agents think. And that's the gap that I was trying to fill with the voice of the agent is I want to know what the least noisy people think, as opposed to people like talking heads like me that will spaff on about marketing and property until the cows go home. I want to hear what everyone thinks. So if you want to know what 1,029 agents think about our industry, read the voice of the agent because it's kind of all in there. So you've got the wisdom of the crowd. That's why we do it. And to be honest, to be brutally frank, big part of our PR now. We want to give back to the industry and then people to come to us and talk about what we know about the market.
It's about, I see it as a massive game of family fortunes. It's almost like, you name the top three places
Uh,
that people get their information from. You said it was the internet. Actually, the survey says it was friends and family.
well, hold that thought because a certain Toby Martin, who we both know well, has an idea, and we may be doing something quite wacky towards the end of the year with it.
Oh, I like
So
it.
really, really gen up on it.
All right. If you tell me there's a prize, I'll start. I'll start going.
There may well be a prize. So yeah, just watch this space.
Oh, fantastic. You've got me at prizes, got me at competition. So talk me through. So it kind of seemed like a game of two halves between sort of sales and lettings with the report this year. Talk me through sort of the facts and figures there.
Yeah, so the report's divided into a few stages. So there's the four chapters we're going to do over the course of the year. This one was about sales, marketing, sorry, sales, lettings, and the market. Next one's about prop tech, portals, and AI. The one after about government policy, HR, housing, all that kind of stuff. And the last one's about the voice of the consumer, where we check what consumers feel about what agents think. So we compare and contrast us. That's the four parts of the year. This individual report was really a game of two halves, three halves. That would be a really odd game of football. Game of two halves. Sales, excellent. Really, really good year last year, and actually surprising amount of caution about this year. And if you speak to the guys at 20A and the others, you see that actually we've come out of the traps one hell of a pace in January 2025 and into February. We'll get the data soon on the whole of February. It's looking good. Lettings is having a bit of a tough time. There's a lot of concern. And while people expect rental prices to rise and housing prices to rise generally because we're not building enough houses, the number of agents in the market, the number of people that expect to be landlords is sort of challenged. And I think that's a lot because of we've got a demographic shift of generations. So boomers selling their property, regulations making it harder to be a landlord. I was a private landlord. I would, as in the sense I ran it myself. I would never do that. I would always have a letting agent's now because it's so complicated, and I wouldn't want to get that felt by the long arm of the law. But kind of really kind of challenging. And then obviously we have the fact that open rent has hoovered up 17% of the market. Now, that's an extraordinary percentage of the market with no sign of stopping. We're actually going to be doing basically what I've done because we have this great relationship with YouGov, our research partners. We actually, it wasn't on there, but I said, you're missing the largest rental player in the market. So they've added YouGov, sorry, they've added open rent to the survey. So we're going to do a private event to our alumni from 30 years of marketing, which is say, it's almost like the open rent paper. This is everything we now know about open rent. So if you're in the lettings market, this is what you need to do to challenge them. Um, because, I think DIY is a route the whole market's going to go down at some point as people go, what is the value an agent brings me? Open rent's done something quite remarkable with its market share. But I was saying in another conversation I had earlier this week with someone is that's when the best letting agents come into their own. So very long answer to a short question. Sales, great. This year's looking better than people forecast it to be. Lettings, a real challenge, but whenever there's a challenge, we see a flight to quality. So if you're a well-informed, well-connected, communicative, rich in information lettings agent, you can add real value to a relationship that a DIY service wouldn't be able to do.
It showed on the report when I was looking at the average fee charged by a lettings agent on a monthly basis. I mean, the 10% column could not have been taller, sort of thing. It was like bumbling along, and then it's like it's rocket at 10%. It's like obviously lettings agents love round figures.
There's clearly a consensus
Yeah.
what you charge. But again, if we're talking about price, we've lost the argument.
Mm.
No, you want to be talking about value. If you go into a conversation, the first thing people are talking to you about price, you can't really add value in a commoditized market. You almost want that to be a non-discussion because they've chosen you, just you, and no one but you, and they'll pay you because they want you. So whatever you charge. I mean, there's this odd situation where the prime market takes a massive percentage of the fees for a very small percentage of the market. I mean, that's insane. If you're getting a lower percentage of a lower value property, you are literally running to stand still. So actually, we should charge a higher percentage at the bottom end and a lower percentage at the high end, but it's the opposite way round. As we all know, because I'm teaching grandma to suck eggs, but that's hard if you work at that mainstream end.
Mm.
So, I strongly recommend people with How to Price Your Platypus by David Abbott. Great book in terms of how you can do the psychology or behavioral analysis around pricing. But yeah, we need to get this pricing debate almost secondary to people picking your brand. And we'll talk about the marketing later in the conversation, but it's like, be the one they buy, not the one you have to sell.
Yeah, because I remember looking at that graph within the voice of agent survey, and the weighting with regard to how much money sort of the prime agents take with regard to how much of the pie they take is absolutely massive compared to sort of their actually how much reach they've got with regard to properties. It's so heavily outweighted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to find the page. I think it's kind of it is. I mean, I've done it on several years now to kind of look at what's going on there. But 41%, sorry, 76% of the properties generate 41% of the fees. 24% of the properties create 59% of the fees. And if you're that super prime, you're 0.2% of the properties and 7.8% of the fees. Now, not everyone can operate in the prime space. I mean, that is just no, not everyone wants to. And there is an absolute role for the volume market. But you've got to try and get away from the fee discussion because in reality, I know mainstream agents who are still charging 1.5, 1.6% because they're so valued by the customer.
Yeah. And so when you look at the letting side and sort of the confidence in there, obviously you mentioned about the politics side of things as well. I thought it was quite interesting when you looked at the divide with regard to who thought the budget was a good idea and who thought it was a bad idea. And it was like, it wasn't 50-50, but it was like, you can see why democracy takes a long time for things to happen. I'll put it that way, because it was like, here's the yeses and here's the nos. It's like, okay, well, fantastic sort of thing. So why does that obviously affect the confidence in the market overall? Because there's that disagreement about what the right move is. That's obviously only going to cause headaches down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we put the politics in question there because they're literally, when we started the research, the budget had just happened. The October budget just happened. So we thought, let's get a view of this because actually I've also got consumer data, what consumers think about it, homeowners. So I want to compare and contrast what the industry thinks and what homeowners thinks, and we'll play that back in the politics report. We'll also look how estate agents voted, sorry, estate and agents voted in the election, how they feel about the current government. We'll talk about all that stuff. Now, as you know, it's rude to talk about politics in polite society, but I think we do have to talk about the fact that, in summary, if you voted for Labour at the last election, you think the budget was good. If you didn't vote for Labour at the last election, you think the budget was bad. And therefore, what you think about it largely is determined by what your politics are.
Hmm.
And beyond that, I think there are some strange decisions in this budget. I don't agree with everything that's been done. But in reality, this is what we're 7, 8 months into a new government after 14 years of one government. I know they tried to pretend they were different governments, but they weren't. It was one government essentially for 14 years, realistically speaking. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I hold no plague for any party, a plague on all their houses, quite frankly, in my book. I think we're deeply let down by the politicians we have in this country, with some exceptional people on all sides of the house. But in reality, I think we need to give these guys a benefit of the doubt to see what they do. And hey, we will throw them out if it's not a success.
Hmm.
That's the joy of democracy, unless you happen to live in America and you're now stuck with Trump for the next 20 years.
8 more years. Yeah, exactly. So,
I, at least I think he's going to. I think he's going to do a Putin on them. Quite frankly,
I think so. I think
and
so. Okay.
however you feel about that, I respect your opinion. I must say that. There are fans and detractors. That's absolutely fine. No politics in my house.
And I guess that's a sort of a confirmation bias for everyone, isn't it? To say, yeah, I was right to vote for whoever it may be, and therefore I agree with their politics, and therefore I didn't vote for them, therefore they're wrong, and it's kind of that sort of I've stuck my trench and I'll die in it. Thank you very much.
It's interesting. I mean, I really get into the politics, the economics, the social technology stuff because I think no one who came to 30 years of marketing expected anyone but Labour to win a massive majority because I said it at the beginning of every presentation, right up until the election. Labour is going to win a massive majority. Prepare for that. I got into a bit of debate yesterday, fantastic debate actually on LinkedIn today, because I was just looking at the results from Germany and what happened with the election they had at the weekend. And because grew up during the Cold War, and I had a map of Europe with East and West Germany divided on the wall, I was genuinely stunned by the division between East and West Germany. It was like there was a map on voting behaviour that looked like the old map of East and West Germany. And it's like, so I made a comment about it, real good debate. I even got a minister responding to it from Germany, which is quite fascinating. And what's really interesting is neither government of any colour has done much for the poor. In generally, like inequality's got worse in the country for the last 20 years.
Mm.
Specifically, the young and the old were better off under Labour. They did get better off, they were done. But everyone got worse since 2010. That's just, I mean, that's not opinion, that's just
Yep.
counting.
Mm.
That's what the data says. So we have a problem with inequality in this country, and that's not good, generally speaking, for cohesive, productive democracies. Hence the rise of certain parties, because we want someone to blame. I think you want an earning middle class and I think is working class still politically correct? I don't know. You want a thriving middle and working class because they spend money. The worst thing about rich people, and I do all right, we don't spend as much of our money. We save it, we invest it, and we take unearned income untaxed. It's woefully unfair that I pay less of a percentage tax than my cleaner.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just the reality of how the economy works. So, what we probably need is genuine free market capitalism, not corporatism or cronyism we've got on the moment where big companies rule the roost and ruin it for everyone else. but actually a really good network to help small businesses and independent people and people who aren't well off to prosper. And I think the balance of mixed economies kind of works in Scandinavia. So we might want to take a leaf out of their book, in my humble opinion.
No, you'd be telling me that trickle-down economics doesn't work next. You'd be saying that giving rich people more money doesn't means they don't spend it. Who knew that would happen?
Well, let's not go any further in this because we'll
Let's
just get
not
into
let's
trouble.
not let's not dig into that hole.
We'll just get into
Anyway,
trouble.
let's go on to a glass half full topic, shall we? So, confidence in the market. So, confidence in the market on the sales
Ah,
side seems very enthusiastic. People expect prices to kind of stay the same slash increase by a bit this year, by the looks of it.
yeah, absolutely. So sales market really, really positive. Lettings a bit more down, but in terms of homeowners, so people who intend to buy or sell in 12 months, and amongst the population as a whole, that was a bit of a Ronnie Corbett moment. Then I'm sorry, I said that is not a tick I want for those who are watching this on video. But we've had a real roller coaster with consumer confidence. We've been tracking it since 2017 because we've got the data, and we have like a real nice plateau up until lockdown. We then get this big dive because of lockdown, and then we come out of this surge in consumer confidence in house prices rising up until the invasion of Ukraine. And then it plummets and keeps plummeting until we have the Truss government where it bottoms out. It's the lowest it's ever been since 2017. And since Truss left, we see rising consumer confidence in house prices until the present day. Tiny blips, but they're blips on a rising line, and homeowners are more confident than the population as a whole. So all the signs of good. And if you follow, Roger Martin Fagg, the behavioural economist, we're actually going to go through a bit of a boom time in the home market until 2032, because in reality we've got a demographic bubble. We have more people than houses, and I was going to take a photo. I went into Waterstones the other day, and I want to take a picture of an A-level crib book for economics, because within the first 5 pages there is the supply and demand graph. If supply exceeds demand, prices fall. If demand increases is above supply, then prices rise because markets abhor profit. So they're trying to equalize all the time. So they're going like a level of time. We have way more people than houses. There's going to be no crash. We're going to have some bumps along the road because of externalities. What happens in America with tariffs? Who knows what's going to happen there? We'll have some bumps. But from peak to trough of the global financial crisis, we lost 19% on house prices. But just to put that into context, I worked in the City of London. We lost 40% of global stock markets. Global stock markets nearly halved in value. Houses lost a fifth. And they came back because they'll always come back because we're not building enough homes. Labour needs to build 5 million homes really to make the market into equilibrium, and they ain't going to do that.
Yeah, I think isn't the annual target like 300 grand? Oh, sorry, 300 grand. Too much time in property. How isn't the annual target 300,000 houses to be
Yeah,
built every year? I think everyone misses it pretty much on the reg.
yeah. And the reality is we've done it. The Conservative government of the 1950s and the Labour government that followed did it. We had fewer people and we built that number of houses. It is possible, but you need the real political will to push it through. And also in those days, we didn't have the monopolies of the housing developers, the good oligopolies. We had lots and lots of house builders, and gradually they've been gobbled up and all gone, and the big players have come in. And I'm no detractor of that building. They need to make a profit. They've got shareholders. Completely respect that. But with the way the market isn't working, Russell Quirk wrote a fantastic essay, if you haven't read it, about how you could address the housing market and get a national house building corporation. I'm a huge fan of citizens' assemblies. It's where I would absolutely say take it out of the planning department, get local citizens' assemblies in local authorities, and say, look, we'll give you government money if you build this many houses in your area. That's where the money's going to come from. You work out how you're going to do it. So the bananas build absolutely nothing anywhere near anyone. The NIMBYs, not in my backyard. The YIMBYs, yes, in my backyard. Young people, old landlords, tenants, developers, whatever, come together. If you have a plan that's actually actionable to build the 6,000, 9,000 houses in your area, you will get government funding. If you build less than that, you will get less money. And very quickly, we would get the houses we built nil. And also, they'd be built in consultation with the local communities. And, Parents who are in their 60s and grandparents in their 60s and 70s now, they have children. They have grandchildren. They know how hard it is for the next generation, unless they're delusional. So we know we need to build more houses. We just need to have a grown-up debate about it rather than this anti-tenant, anti-homeowner, anti-landlord, and yeah, it just let's have a grown-up conversation. Citizens' assemblies, National House Building Corporation. I think you could solve it quite quickly, but again, I just don't think we have the caliber of politicians to make that intelligent debate happen.
And when are you running for Prime Minister? Just on a tangent.
Too many skeletons in my cupboard, I'm afraid. I couldn't take an investigation by one of the red tops. So, no. No, hey, I thought I was going to be a politician. No, all joking aside, I did politics at university thinking I was going to be a politician. And then I did business. So I worked in a business over a summer holiday. I just love business. I thought, you know what? I don't want the BS that comes with politics. I want to run businesses and I want to work in business. So that changed my direction entirely. I sort of dropped my politics degree, went and did business, loved that, fell in love with marketing. The rest, as they say, is history. But who was it who said? Was it Billy Connolly said the one qualification for not being a politician is the desire to be one?
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of the Greek, because I'm a total history geek, is the Greek approach, which is called bureaucracy. Is you have juries and you basically have random people picked from an area and you get them to make the decisions because then there's no vested interest, there's no money, there's no party funding. You get in subject matter experts to talk to them and they make a generally more neutral decision than the kind of people we have as professional politics is I just doesn't work.
Mm. Well, we've gone down another mine hole then pretty
I
quickly.
told you it would take more than an hour. Sorry, I
No.
literally, wind me up and set me off.
Yeah. Well, we alluded to it earlier with my family fortunes analogy. So, talk me through where people are getting their advice from, sort of where agents expect people to get their advice from, and when people are actually getting their advice from. Because I think many agents thought it was sort of friends and family were sort of the go-to sort of point for people getting advice, but actually it's a little bit different, kind of varying on kind of results on that side.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and this is actually something that. Did you ever met Steve Carell from Australia?
I have not, no.
No, a great person for you to get to know. Actually, I mean, he used to work for the REA down in the News Corp organisation. Was going to try and buy Rightmove and didn't. He worked for them and now he's a consultant. But he came to 30 years of marketing, which we'll talk about later, which obviously you've come to, and he loved the report. And he said that was his favourite thing is the complete difference between what agents think and what homeowners think. So, in here, adults, most people aren't in the market because that's the reality. So they don't even care. But, and also in the market, obviously they're way more interested than the population as a whole. But agents, just to look at the numbers, they thought friends and family was number one. Friends and family comes in at number two. And actually, it's online property sites, the portals. Now, I know they have the detractors, but actually it's the portals that people go to. The reason why they can charge the prices that they do is because homeowners love them.
Mhm.
They've done the job that they wanted agents to do. So, Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, and there's no longer boom, but that serves a real consumer demand as money has got problems. They thought media came second. Nope, that was friends and family. And then estate and letting agents came in third. But there's a really widespread. This is page 729 of the report for people who've actually downloaded the report, which you can download for free. It's a real widespread of sources of information they're going for. But unless you're on portals, you're missing 85% of the audience who say that is their principal source of information about the property market. I often comment is the numbers are probably wrong because Rightmove have the right internal data. 96 million people visit Rightmove every month. How many people are there in the UK? 68 million, of which 45 million are adults. Where's the other 48 million people come from? We love property. So the portals do this amazing job. People are visiting all the time. It's Christopher Watkins says this is our number 2 national hobby after the weather. And it's true. So, You want to be using those portals strategically, intelligently, putting interesting content to there, not just posting on your portals and praying. Get some brand advertising on there, get some messages out there, use their marketing capabilities, use them judiciously. Obviously, there's an ROI you need to be tracking, but if you use them intelligently, they're very powerful because all eyeballs are there. Or, and here's the alternative, spend way more on your marketing because you offset what you do in portals with your own marketing. You don't need them. Just if I was starting an agency, I'd be delighted that someone had built me a portal that had all the eyeballs on it anyway. It's like, thank you very much. We had a conversation the other day with the pricing of it as well. If you actually took newspaper prices and took them up for inflation, newspapers were always more expensive than portals are today.
Mm. I remember
Um,
looking like which I don't know which chart it is on your or what page it is on your report, but there's one saying what's your number one lead source in your business, and it's just this right move like tower, and it's like 70% or something ridiculous. It's a really high figure sort of thing for
yeah.
the amount of leads that people actually get off the back. I mean, yes, it's very expensive, but it's doing a job.
um, and Rightmove loves that page.
I bet they do. They
Funnily
staple it to
enough,
your invoice.
they like that page. We should get some money out of them. But that would make jeopardize the neutrality of the report. And to answer you, I just want the honest opinions of people. And if you use portals intelligently, you can do a great job. Zoopla's running this number two campaign at the moment, whereas people want you to be on more than one portal. We got that in the research last year because we said, what's the number one thing you want? Being on multiple portals is right up there as what homeowners want. So being on two or three portals is critical. And if you're not on that, and I know there's some great agents who are not on the portals, they're just really good at marketing and really strong in their local community. So you can do it, but you got to really work at it.
And I noticed that so we're talking about sort of money and spending money. Let's talk about money coming in. Great segue. So fees. I was at 1.28 is the average fee now, and I think that's in slow. I might be making this up, but I think it's been slowly increasing over the last couple of years or so. I think it was 1.1 something. I think maybe last time potentially. Might be making that up.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, with margins and error, I would say it's above 1%. So, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3%. It's around there. I mean, there's some sampling that goes on because of my background in the high end, and I tried to iron that out with this kind of survey. But yeah, it's plus 1%. My colleagues and friends overseas think it's hilarious. Where they charge 765%, depending on which country you're in. And we've got ourselves into a horrible mess with fees. And we talked about this earlier, is you kind of need to get off the fee discussion. Sell value, not price. Sell your expertise, sell your brand. We don't sell your brand sells itself. But get your brand out there. And if Charles at David Doyle hears this, because I always use him as a sample, because he literally is the estate agent in my area who runs David Doyle, and I think I gave him 30 years of things out of 30 years of marketing. I think he said earlier today. His brand is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. You cannot walk out of my house without seeing that brand. I got this amazing thing the other day. Is all around my house, every for sale board is David Doyle. And then I got a letter through the letterbox, and there's some comments I'd make about that, but not for now. And then I got an email from them. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Multi-channel contact points. So and this is now, hey, I'm a sucker for this. God, it's worked on me. I think about any estate agent. I think of David Doyle before I think of anyone else, nationally, regionally, locally, or whatever. That's what you want to be. Find a reason to get your boards up. Find a reason to get your information into people's houses. And the joy about property, which isn't like life assurance and pensions where I used to work, is you literally know where they live. The house doesn't, in the houses, we talk about fast moving consumer goods, FMCGs. We talk about slow moving consumer goods, SMCGs. A house is a non moving consumer good because it's physically not going to get up and move. The people in it might move, but the house won't. So once you've identified the kind of houses that you want to sell, you've got them as a captive audience. So be an expert in that area. And then the fee stuff is a warning sign to all of us, is we risk commoditizing, we risk going down, we're selling a commoditized service, and that just opens the door to aggregators and tech to basically put you out of a job.
Hmm. So let's talk about the competition then. So your local agent, So the figures seem fairly consistent from last year about how much kind of competition and the average agent has sort of in their town. Was it
Yeah.
12.1, I think, agents in their
Call
town?
it call it call it 12. It's pretty
Yeah,
consistently 12.
yeah.
Ian Mackenzie and I from the Guild, CEO of the Guild, we used to talk about 10 when we worked together when I was the CEO of Fine and Country. Good rule of thumb is if you've got 10% market share, you've got a market share. Above 10%, you've got a good market share. Below 10%, you've got a bad market share. And what you see consistently is the top two agents in any area will get well above 10%, and then there's a long tail of the rest.
Mm.
So you need to fight tooth and nail to get your brand awareness to number one, two, or three in your area. So when it comes to instructors, they think of you and they pick you. Because once you get into that top two, it just becomes a virtuous cycle growing. And a huge number of people can't think of a single one.
Mm.
That's always blows my mind. We work in this industry. We can't not think of a state agency and letting agency brands. Most people couldn't give a damn.
Yeah, I
Simon Gates.
I always enjoy the don't know column is always quite a fun one in your any kind of voice of agent. They go don't know and you're like, really? You don't know?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Literally couldn't think of a single one. Simon Gates tells the story on about Heather Staff was talking to her husband about they're selling their house, and her husband had said, "We need to talk to this agent because they're the ones who sold her the house." And Heather went, "No, it wasn't." So literally couldn't remember the person who had sold them their house. And because we are transactional as a market, we get the house sold and we forget about it. We're not like you do with your clients and your potential clients, and I do with my clients, is we're constantly having a conversation with them, constantly putting content out there for free. I love your videos, I love your tips, your book's great. Read Chris's books. Books now, isn't it?
Books, yeah, multiple, yeah.
You're a multi-published author now. I hope you
Two,
like
two,
my.
two-time top selling, just to get it in there.
Just to get out of it. In fact, so many people I know are bestsellers.
As if by magic, yeah.
I do need to get my book released.
You do, and the Ledbetter
But
podcast
it's
needs to come
coming.
out.
It's coming. 30 years of marketing in one book. But it's like you constantly give information and you're building a relationship with the market. I go to conferences and people go, "Oh, you're Simon Ledbetter, aren't you?" Never met me. They've seen my stuff on LinkedIn and however they've seen me. We operate in a transactional market. We sold the house and move on. Well, guess what? They'll forget you when suddenly the phone rings, the baby cries, they have to cook the meal. And by the time they come to, is it 86% of people, was it Spectre who said 86% of people who come to sell their house don't sell it from the agent that sold it to them?
Yep, yeah,
I
the
mean,
return rates are terrible.
that's wacky. I mean, that says no relationship has been built.
Mm.
And yeah, this comes back to the fact that for 12 years you're treated like rubbish as a tenant, then you're treated as rubbish as an applicant, and then the first time you sell your house, you don't feel that good about it. So after 20 years of experience, this is really simplifying. You're not a fan of estate agents and lettings agents at that point.
Mm.
Whereas if you treat your tenants, your landlords, your applicants, your vendors, as though every single one of them matters. I used to tell the story of it. I went to an agent in Lincoln and said, "Look, I want to rent a house in Lincoln because we're moving up from Notting Hill in London." Didn't ask me if I owned a house. Didn't ask me if I was selling a house. I was selling a house in Notting Hill. There was not a property in Lincoln that I couldn't have bought. We were just renting because we didn't know if we actually were going to make a permanent move up there or not. They told me to go round the back because that's where tenants came in.
Wow.
I mean, wow. I
Mm.
mean, that is, and I haven't said their name. And there's a bit of me, my old CMO would say to me at Barcard, you should say their name at every conference you go to.
Mm.
But I wouldn't because, I bet they had such high staff turnover. No one who was there when they saw me is there still because 50% churn in our industry. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't do that to them. But it is, I used to just do a presentation at Knight Frank called 12 Years a Slave. Is being a tenant when you start out is not an easy life. And we have people who are older and older tenants all the time. You know, Someone described it the other day. It's like living in a Nazi state, being a tenant. You're investigated, things are questioned, and it's like, yeah, we're not building a lot of love with these people, are we? And there's more tenants than there are landlords. So as a voting bloc, they're pretty powerful. Most young tenants have someone, what they call carents. Oh yeah, parents. So if you treat people badly, they'll tell their parents. And then it used to be that if you had someone who had a bad experience, they'd tell 11 people. With social media, they'll tell 11,000 people.
Mm.
So we need to get better at being good people and treating everyone with respect. And until we do that, we're going to have 1 or 2% market shares and we're going to be replaced by technology.
Mm. I
That's the
remember.
reality.
I remember mystery shopping a client asked me to phone up a rather well-known national high-end company, we'll put it that way, and to do a bit of mystery shopping.
Hmm.
They were trying to get in on one of the developments. They said, "Do you mind just giving them a quick call and see what it's about," sort of thing. And I was shocked, if I'm honest with you, with the, oh, which property was that? And it was like basic questions like, what's included with it? Does it have a garage? Does it have, and they're like, I don't know. I don't know. Let me see if I can get Paula. Paula! Like, and then this is like, and then I Paula's out at the moment. I'll get to like, it was just from start to finish. I just thought to myself, if that's the bar of a high-end national estate agency who's got all the money in the world to throw out training, almost like what is going on?
And don't get me wrong, I'm not picking on individual letting agents. I think, they do an incredible job. When we rented, I know my wife was very annoyed with the letting agents. I said, oh, they are overworked, they're underpaid, they're understaffed. You cut them some slack because I get you. They've got the landlord on the phone giving them a hard time, the boss giving them a hard time, and they earn less than minimum wage. Probably in reality, but they can't. But in reality, they're relative what they could earn if they went and worked at a supermarket. The Christopher Walken thing where the gap between the minimum wage and what estate agents and letting agents are paid has so closed. There's no advantage now. So you've got to cut them some slack. I think it's the corporates and the bosses are not investing in their teams. They're not training their teams. And as a result, we have this transactional high churn market. And what I think is the single most, I know, the most important transaction in someone's life, whether they rent, let, sell, or buy their property, their home, deserves a bit better service. And I think we're sort of, as an industry leaders, let the people down. So I'll get off the soapbox.
Fine. Well, let's talk about marketing because it is 30 years of
How long
marketing,
have you
yeah,
got?
not 30 years of politics. 30 years of marketing, that's the one, isn't it? So, talk me through marketing spend because it seems like agents are spending, is it about 10%, 12%, 15%, that sort of
12%?
ballpark
Yeah,
of their
12%.
market? Yep. So, is that increasing, decreasing? What's the sort of outlook there?
So I won't get into the stats. There's margins of error, but on average, 10% last year, 12% this year. So we're seeing an increase in marketing spend, and the balance between portals and non-portal marketing has stayed about the same. So about 50-50, portals 50-50, non-portals in the marketing spend. We take portals out because it's almost like a hygiene factor. It's like a cost of business or a license to operate. So portals and non-portal marketing are split. It's gone up. So clearly, all that stuff I'm talking about marketing is having an effect, and everyone else talking about marketing is having an effect. People are kind of realizing that marketing works. And the other thing we saw is the agents who grow. So we asked the question is, did you grow last year? Do you expect to grow next year? And there's a bit of self-selection here, but we can see a clear divide between the growth agents and the steady or declining agents is growth agents spend a fifth more. They're also busier on every single marketing channel. So I wish it was more complicated than this. If you want to grow your business, do more marketing. Here endeth the lesson. And it's not more complicated than that. And I wish it was. I mean, we got the science behind it. We've got all the data to prove it. We've got what the channels they use in the report, people who want to download it. But growth agents, just more well known. They're more visible on every channel. They're investing more in their marketing. And actually, David Lindley from By Design pointed this, and I'm annoyed with myself I didn't spot it. Most of the things at the top that growth agents do, so the things they do most of them are free.
Hmm.
You
So,
know,
so, so
someone.
talk me through what they are then. So, what are the things if I was a growth agent, what would be my typical sort of marketing 101 sort of eat list?
So, so it's an interesting one because I have a major beef with these research results, which really annoys me because it's my report. Is there's one of them that's not getting the credit it deserves, and it needs. I haven't done my job on that one yet, so it's really annoying. So let me just find the page side in the graph. So yeah, social media. So in terms of order, this is pretty much the same order for growth agents and everyone else, but this is page 83 if anyone is following along or wants to get a copy of it. Social media number one. Word of mouth referrals, number two. Canvassing, leafleting, number three. Okay, there's a bit of print there. That's a bit of cost. Direct mail, number four. Okay, bit of cost there, but that can. Yeah. Review sites, free. Emails, free. Sponsorship, bit of a cost. Door knocking, free. Online newsletters, free. Brand partnership, free. So that's kind of like most of the top, and I think I mentioned two or three paid ones there.
Mhm.
So, and I talk about the four riders of the marketing apocalypse, which all the data from consumers, so homeowners, says PR, email, social, and direct. You need to do your PR for your brand, your email for getting sales coming in through the door, social for brand and your sales, and then direct mail for your sales because you literally know where they live. The one that, and this happened last year as well, it's like, grr, damn you, research. Public relations, way too low. People are not understanding the power of using someone else's credibility, the eyeballs that other media have, be they influencers or be they news outlets. You want your story to be in someone else's network because that other person has the credibility with their network. And as we've already explained, 96 million visits on Rightmove, 48 million adults in the United Kingdom over 18, has a lot of interest in property. And most property data is national or regional. Nothing out there is local. So if you're using Dataloft 20A, one of the other sources out there, and there's so much good data. I mean, I'm a huge fan of 20A because whenever I've tested it, it's probably one of the most robust. Get that data, make it local, compare it to national, and say, so this great report from Rightmove that said this about the nation. This is what it means, and I'll use my own area. This is what it means for Boxmoor. No one else is talking for Boxmoor. Now, your local journalist, your local influencer is going to come to you every single month because that data comes out every single month. And they'll already have the credibility of their network. So I need to campaign to get PR up the ranks, and then I'll get a check from Russell Quirk.
There we go. Well, I feel like the super keen school child sat at the front of the class with his apple ready to give you. I know last time we had our video call, you said to me I need to do some more PR stuff. I've been in the property industry quite a few times. I've been published at least 10 times, I think, since we caught up last. I've been putting some actual proactivity into it, and as if by magic it's working. So, Simon, I
It's
bow
funny,
down to
isn't
your
it?
knowledge.
It's amazing how it works. I mean, you go, oh, blow me down with blow me down. It's like, guys, it just works. And I've got one managing director I've spoken to for a long time. I used to work with them, so they'll remain nameless, as will the brand. And I said, okay, so the four riders, PR, email, social, direct. Yeah, we're not really doing email. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not doing email? Do you remember the list? PR, email, number two, social and direct. Oh, we're doing loads of video and we're doing loads of social media because it's shiny and new.
Mhm.
Email, you have the opt-in from someone who wants to receive your content. Why wouldn't you exploit that to the max? And you can send really rich content and you've got their permission. If they unsubscribe, they weren't interested anyway, so it cleans itself. And it costs zero. Now, yeah. Well, I bang on about it all the time. And, four riders of the marketing apocalypse, for people who come on my courses, I talk about them all the time. Just do these four things. And you'll be all right. You will be fine. If you're doing those four things consistently and relentlessly, you will be fine. And then, of course, word of mouth recommendation can't compete with that when it comes to marketing because that's the most powerful. That's kind of down to you as an individual. If you're a completely dishonest crook, you're not going to have a great reputation, and therefore your word of mouth is going to be bad. If you're a decent human being who does a great job and tells great stories about your local area, your word of mouth will take off. And then your PR, email, social, and direct can just amplify it.
Simon, you've been I say brilliant guest. You've been a brilliant host on today's podcast because I've sat here and done very little of honestly. I've just sat here and kind of just let you go for it. It's been absolutely golden as ever. Have we missed anything, or have we covered all? I've got a huge list that we've worked through over this time. Have we missed any gems from the voice of the agent thing we should talk about, or are we like there or thereabouts?
I think we need that one final point I'd say about the report, and then we talk about people downloading it and doing other
Yep.
stuff. Is what was really interesting is one of the biggest queries that people had, one of the biggest concerns is getting new vendors, and
Yes.
that's a
All
big
that.
one. And then talent, retaining talent, and it's
Mm.
like getting people seems to be an issue for the industry. Well, the answer is invest in your marketing to get better vendors, instructions, and landlords. and invest in your internal marketing to get better people. And not necessarily better people, retain good people. You know, your brand is an internal and external thing. I'll always say this when I talk about marketing is half the battles in marketing are won internally. If you can get everyone in the organization to believe in what you're doing, give you interesting information that you can use in your PR, they'll help. They won't send shockingly bad, angry emails to clients who might actually be portfolio owners. 1 in 5 landlords rent. You don't know when you speak to someone what their actual relationship with property is. Social media. It's amazing how many, okay, I sound like an old fart here. Young people are on social media all the time, but they will not do it for their companies. I would make it in your job description, you have to be on social media as an employee. We can give you the content, you can create other people's, but you need to be on there because that's called free marketing. And either I can give you a pay rise and a bonus because you're doing the free market, or I can use your pay rise and bonus to pay for our marketing. The choice is yours. And then direct mail. If you're doing those things, you will get more people. And also, if you've got a growing, good brand, good people want to work for you, good people want to choose you as an agent. If you're struggling to retain people, know thyself, look in the mirror. If you're struggling to attract customers, know thyself, look in the mirror. The problem isn't the market. The problem isn't the employees. The problem is a little bit closer to you. I often say 5% of people in the UK are psychopaths. If you know 20 people and none of them are psychopaths, you're the psychopath.
And on that note, Simon,
Did you expect me to go there with the?
I did not. We've covered a wide range of topics. I mean, this is a big report. Right. So how can people get their copy of the Voice of the Agent survey?
So I presume you're going to put all these links out there, which will be fantastic. So you can download the executive summary for free. All you need to do is put in your email address and you can download the full report. You can buy the report from Lulu if you want a print copy, because the print copies are actually quite beautiful. No, you can't see that because of my green screen. The print copies are lovely, aren't they, Chris?
They are. I've got one here. There, here's one over there. There we go. As if by magic. Mine appears.
And actually, pictures with dogs. We love pictures with dogs and the voice of the agent. Big fan of those kind of pictures. If you dogs or pets, more generally speaking, so you can download the report for completely for free. We want more people to fill in the survey for part 2 to make it representative. The more people get the wisdom of the crowd, and you get the report for free. If you sign up for the report, I mean, what's funny is the number of people who fill in the report survey but don't give us their email address. I can't send it to people unless I have their email address, unless they expect to download it online, which is available on our website, weareunchained.com. Oh God, that's just really embarrassing. Weareunchained.co.uk. God, my head of brand will kill me.
It auto completes these days. You probably just type in W and it comes up straight away, I'd imagine. So you never need to type it
Exactly.
yourself.
Oh, good recovery. I like
Thank you
what
very
said
much. I'll
there.
bail you out, mate. I'll bail you out.
And then the other one is, we do this 30 years of marketing in one day. It's a 1 day course. Obviously, you've been on it, so you can give an honest feedback about it. You'll learn everything you've learned that I've learned in 30 years and every single degree under the sun. We condense it to 7 hours. Gives you all the CPD you need for a year. It's CPD accredited. And I just want our industry to have better marketing because I think it's the best industry in the world. So I just want our marketing to be better. And okay, I love you, big corporates, but I kind of want to help the independents.
Well, I'll give a shameless pitch for 30 years of marketing. I've been, and I think my pen was worn out after about 15, 20 minutes or things. So much stuff. And obviously you spoke at our mastermind event back in December as well.
Pleasure.
All over again. All over again. So amazing stuff. You get a chance to go along to it, you absolutely should. Simon, thank you so much for being an amazing host, as always. Very gracious of you. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great weekend. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.